Hey guys, hope you're doing well out there. This is Eric with Nutrition by Eric, and we have a topic today of nutrition of a acupuncture versus acupressure. And I bring these up. These are two healing modalities. There's many out there. You probably know, you probably heard of one or if not both of them. And there's many. There's besides massage, chiropractic, naturopath. These are all natural, where there's no chemicals, no drugs. These are all natural healing modalities. Maybe some herbs, maybe certain food recommendations. But the acupuncture and acupressure I wanted to discuss today to tell you a little bit about them if you don't know, and share a little bit more if you don't know too well. So acupuncture is a healing modality. The original date, it's thousands of years old. I don't know the exact date, but it's pretty old. It's got a lot of history. Also called, it's part of the TCM family, which stands for traditional Chinese medicine. So a person who has been trained in this particular path would have the initials L.AC. Which means licensed acupuncture. An older term I also heard was Doctor of Oriental Medicine, DOM. You might see that as well. That's not as common for various reasons. And so today I find it interesting because I'm a fan. I try to get acupuncture frequently. I've probably had more than 100 sessions. And first we'll talk about acupuncture, where if you're not familiar, you may have seen there's a model either in the clinic, or it's kind of popular if you've seen it, that there's a guy and he's standing like this and he's got all these little dots and little lines. So the idea is there are 12 what they call meridians, and these are energy pathways. And well, it was kind of hard to prove this. The exact origin may not be known, but it's likely this people were just more in nature. They were more in tune with the subtle energies, whatever you want to call it, and they were able to discover certain points do certain things. And then they found, well, these points kind of go up in a line, so they correspond mostly to organs. Like, for example, the lung, and they call it a channel or meridian. The lung meridian would help with the lungs, of course. So there's one, and they even did a study. I think if you take the middle of your bicep and you push it, it causes more oxygen to enter the body. And they tested this. They're not all these. They can't. I don't know how good they are at testing all of these, but they're able to test it scientifically that if you press that spot, or maybe they used a needle and they use it as a verb. They needle it, and it actually helps increase the oxygen going to the body. So it's very effective. It's not as well known, but it does work, and it's one of those things, like many of this type of stuff is subtle. So you don't go in and just, sometimes right away, one session, yeah, you can see a difference. Sometimes it's kind of like moving the needle a little bit. That's this kind of needle, not that needle. Same word. But the idea is that it can gradually improve conditions because it's believed that the body has a certain regulation. Cars are great analogies. People use cars for analogies for a lot of times, especially for the body. So it's kind of like saying, if your cars, there's not a great one, but you could say, like, let's say your brakes are uneven. There's too tight on the left and it's too loose on the right, and you need to tune up. So you would do a little adjustment here, a little adjustment there. You just balance out what's not balanced, and these practitioners can do a diagnosis, which is really interesting. I find it fascinating that they can use just meeting people. And I didn't know this. After I've had many sessions, I started asking them and prying and figuring out, like, how do you guys do what you're doing? And I found out some of the things they do is they look at the tongue. So they stick on your tongue, and they can tell by the dynamics of the tongue whether it's moving, whether there's creases, if it's not perfectly like the shape of a normal tongue, it's kind of what they call scalloped. And you can look this up. You can do a search for tongue diagnostic, tongue reading, both in acupuncture, or you can search ayurveda, which is, let's say, from the country India, Indian natural medicine. It's lesser known, but it's probably gained much popularity over the years. So they both use that. And there's some dynamics like there's 5 elements. It's pretty cool. I think it's just really neat. I love stuff from that part of the world, from Asia. So there's like 5 elements, and there's talk about wood and metal and water and earth. What was that show? That the last Avatar, the Airbender. So it's probably inspired by that. But I digress. So the idea is you can really get healthy by just kind of going in and if you have a good practitioner, like anything, you could have. I've mostly had good practitioners. Now over to what's probably in a lot of people's mind is pain. Does it hurt? Well, these are really small needles. The variety, actually, they can use different needle lengths and different widths. And there are different Asian countries who have kind of changed up the method a little bit. So you have traditional Chinese medicine from China, then you have a variety maybe from Korea, and a variety from Japan. Now, the Japanese use thinner needles. I mean, they're really as thin as a human hair. And I like to tell people, if they ask me, does it hurt? Well, think of a hair growing. Does the hair hurt when it grows out of your body? I don't have a whole lot left right now, but the same idea. That should kind of a no-brainer. That you don't feel pain, but you may feel pain briefly. To be completely honest, when I had my 100 sessions or so, at the beginning I had a little bit of pain, because what happens in the body is there's these kind of blockages. So again, there's 12 channels, and there's one right down the middle, right down the back. I might be a little off, but there's 12 main ones which correlate to organs like liver, kidney, lung, spleen. And it's interesting, you have the actual organ, but you have this energetic pathway that runs in kind of a funny shape. If you look on some, just look up acupuncture meridians, acupressure meridians, you'll see that they kind of go in a very unique path, like this and like this, and some systems don't always agree. They don't always think they go the same way. So the idea is there's a reading. Anybody who's adept in a certain field, whether they're a firefighter or a regular doctor, like a Western doctor, or allopathic doctor, or a artist, you get a sense. And I think this is what happens over time. I haven't asked them specifically, but checking the time here, the practitioners get a sense, I believe, and then they know when I find it fascinating, like I said, and I do feel different. I mean, if I didn't have 100 acupuncture sessions, I don't know. I don't think I'd be in the same state I'm in, so I'm grateful for it. Also, now let's shift over to acupressure. So acupressure is the same idea as I mentioned earlier. It's just I've never found an acupressure practitioner. Usually this, I think, is a do-it-yourself kind of a thing. You probably find a course, or if I find some, I'll put a link in the description box. And then there's reflexology. I heard a young lady who was an acupuncturist. She was on one of those kind of famous shows back then, like Nightline or 2020 or 60 Minutes, something my parents would watch or something. And she's explaining it to the interviewer. It says, the body is mapped. You can read the body. It's mapped many times over. And by that she means, like, you could look at someone's face and you could certain dynamics. You could look at it's both mapped as far as reading, and it's mapped as far as applying treatment. So there's people that just do acupuncture in the ear, and some people just do it on the feet. That's reflexology. And then there's some other varieties, but those are some of the main alternative ones. So if there's a liver channel, it kind of goes like this, and it has a little bit of a sharp angle. It's also mapped in the ear. I think the French figured that out. So there's a lot. I mean, you could probably spend the rest of your life trying to figure out all the nuances of it. In addition, there's other things. Now, acupuncture is one aspect of the brain, of the body, of the umbrella, maybe you could call it TCM, traditional Chinese medicine. So that's just one aspect. You could go to a TCM practitioner, and you could get acupuncture, and then you can maybe get herbs, and then they put this little incense thing on the end of the herbs called moxie. Sometimes this is not traditional probably, they can put a little bit of electricity. Always freaks me out, but you just put a little bit of electricity, and you can feel electrostim on the actually needles. They'll give a little bit of juice. It gets me nervous, but sometimes I let them do it. I usually prefer old school Amish style, meaning no electricity. And it's also fascinating. And then they talk about food combining. And there was one other thing. What was the other thing? There's also blinking for a second. But so basically that's just one thing. Oh, cupping. That's the last one. They actually have these small cups, like a small teacup, and they'll either use a suction cup, suction like a vacuum. Let's say it's a plastic cup, about so big, and they'll apply it, and they'll use some like a hand pump. You pump like a soccer ball up, and it'll pull the air out, which pulls, if you put it on your skin, it'll actually swell up, and it'll kind of fill up some or all the cup, and that's a way to move circulation, and that's super cool, because sometimes it's just, like I said, there's a lot to it. You can read about cupping. If you type in cupping, TCM, cupping, traditional Chinese medicine, you'll learn that, and not everybody does that, so it gets pretty deep, and there's probably some other things that probably they don't even do, at least in the US. Some things there's probably a little more out there stuff that they just don't do for various reasons. So I just find it really fascinating, especially the herbs, because then they have all these herbs, and they want to create, the idea is to create harmony. Again, to compare it to something. So again, there's probably, like, you could say, like an alignment. Like the body works, let's say there's like a perfect way the body works. Everything works, your blood pressure's right, your blood circulation's right, your metabolism's right, your breathing's correct. But let's say, see, the organs, as far as I know, from what I understand, the organs can function a little too much or a little too little, just like a car engine. You can rev too high or rev too low. And then they have these terms like yin and yang, of course, and there's either you have to tonify, or you have to like reduce the ability or increase the ability. Let's say they're able to tell and figure out, well, let's see, your liver is kind of not working 100%, but your heart is working too hard, and your spleen is doing this, and they'll kind of know all that by another way they can do a reading. A diagnosis is, in addition to the tongue reading, I forgot to mention, is pulse reading, which I found it so cool. They actually put 3 fingers on your vein, not just, now in the Western world, they just read your pulse by the beats per minute. But in this Asian healing modality, I believe ayurveda too, they'll put 3 fingers on, and they each represent different organs. So I know all of them, but like they'll press, you'll see them, I've seen them, and if we can show you exactly. So they may press like this, and they may push a little harder on each finger. Say, okay, well, this is your liver energy, and this is your spleen. I don't know all of them, but the idea is that they can do that. I think that's cool. I don't think a lot of people know about that. I just think that's really cool. And the same for the other hand. So there's like 6 organs they can read. They can look at your tongue. Of course, they get your history. For if you tell them you've got an ache here, or a headache, or stomach ache, or you feel, and it also ties into emotions, which is really cool. So because your liver may not be functioning correctly, that may be a direct relationship with the amount of anger you have. This is fascinating to me. This is something I personally have worked with. So liver could not be functioning right because of various reasons, mostly toxins. You know the old joke, if you drink too much, it's going to affect your liver, but also it does so much. There's so much. I mean, that's worth a whole nother discussion. But this is all to say that it's fascinating. You think maybe it's just your body is having an issue, whether you have an ache or a sore throat or a cold or a flu, but it maybe tie more with your emotions. So if you feel irritable, or you feel lethargic, or many things. The only thing I know is, since it's so old, it doesn't always tie in with modern life so much of toxicity. And the buzzword has been for so long, it's so popular now, detox, toxicity and detox. So so many toxins, with so many things made in the world, either intentionally or unintentionally. Intentionally by way of chemicals and things that are sprayed in the food and pesticides and things sprayed in the air and cloud seeding, and you can go on and on. There's like I read a number, it says like if you put all the chemicals in a box and you weighed it, it's like 1,000,000 pounds either per month or per year. It's a ton. Like, chemicals probably start off as a liquid, but you spray it and you can't see, you can't smell it, can't really notice it, but it still gets in the body. And what happens, what I've learned over my exposure to health knowledge and being a health coach and studying nutrition, that the body can take in chemicals. It takes in chemicals and it doesn't easily get rid of it. And that's what people don't really realize, from what I can tell. You don't realize the toxic load when you have even smog. Excuse me. Piece of food from lunch came out for no reason. So when you have a little bit of exposure to smog, if you're in a car, or you're walking by streets, or it could be jets flying by in the exhaust from planes. It can be if you live near a factory and they're a coal producing factory, or the myriad of other things, chemicals, new car smells, when chemicals on fabrics, and a lot of these, they're almost undetectable, but your body knows, and the body kind of has what's called a toxic load. So that is not always easily handled by traditional Chinese medicine, I've found. That's why sometimes you need a team. You need probably more than one approach. It can help, but it may be a slower path versus like doing a detox or having a juice cleanse or something like that. They're not really into that. They're all about staying warm and having kind of from the ones I've met at least, they have kind of a topic of the evil wind. So you don't want to be too windy. You don't have, you want to make sure you're staying warm and you have a good circulation, which was good, since it probably, predates a lot of the modern industrial era. But it's great. I think it's a great modality. If you haven't tried it, I recommend you try it. I'll also add that there is something called community acupuncture. Now, acupuncture can vary in price. I sometimes go to acupuncture school. You can find an acupuncture school, and if you're willing to work with a student and you are willing to take a little more time, it takes longer, you can go to an acupuncture school clinic, and they need guinea pigs, so to speak, to practice their needling. Sometimes, they might hit the wrong spot, and sometimes it may hurt from them, but they're trying, and usually it's not that bad of pain. And if it does hurt, you just say, hey, it's still hurting, please take the needle out. And if they're a competent and professional TCM specialist or acupuncturist, they'll respect that, and they'll take it out, or they'll dialogue with you. Again, it may be due to blockages. If you have a lot of stuff going on, you may have energy is kind of clumped up in an area, and it's kind of hard, I know, to visualize the energy being clumped up, but that's just how it is. You just go with it and give it, I'd say give it at least 5 sessions. This is like, and this is a gradual movement of aligning your body. So it doesn't usually happen in one session. It's not like, oh, I went to once, I'm fine for life. No, it's just like, anything. If you clean up, things get dirty. Take a shower, you're going to need one the next day. This is something maybe you want to do once a week, twice a week. Maybe front load it, do it more at the beginning, maybe twice a week, and then scale down to once a week, once every 2 weeks. And back to community acupuncture. So community acupuncture is a concept. There's a website called Poca. I should remember the exact name. Poca something. And it's the community acupuncture is where it's a room full of chairs. I know we're all concerned about social distancing and being safe, but it's usually a room full of chairs, like a recliner, what they call a lazy boy chair, maybe a big comfy chair you'd sit and watch a football game with, and watch TV with, and that way they can see and treat many people at the same time. Here in Austin, they have one. They have a real nice one south. I'll give them a shout out. The South Austin Community Acupuncture, great place, lots of space. Just redid it, And it's a sliding scale, which is nice. So sometimes they charge between $20 and $40, give or take. And you really just choose what you want to pay. Otherwise, costs would be not at the schools, but maybe $40 to $100, give or take. And you can always try it out if you want a private session, or just do a search online. Go to Yelp maybe, or go to some review website, or give them a call. Say, if you're wondering, you can always say, I'm not really sure about this. Can we try it out? Can I just try like one needle? I've never done that, but I've always suggested that to people, including my parents, who are quite skittish. Just see what it's like. Just tip your if you're drawn to this and you want something maybe that's non-invasive and alternative and something different, might want to give it a try. Just start simply 1 or 2 or 3 needles, or just try treatment, and just go for it. So that's about it. Look at my notes. Oh, what can it help? Here we go. Sorry, I forgot to mention. What conditions can it help? Well, just about anything, I think, because the model is this is what we call the holistic model. Any condition, well, first of all, let's start with the opposite. Instead of what condition, let's start with perfect health. Perfect health is pretty, that is a base. When you have perfect health, you feel good, you're happy, you feel positive, you're smiling, you kind of maybe have a glow, you just feel good, and it's kind of head to toe. That's like the model where I think we all either are or want to get to, right? So the idea is that's the base. You want to get there. Now, the model is if you go this way, maybe it's diabetes, and if you go that way, maybe it's a bad cold and flu. And if you go that way, that's this or that. So it's a different model. It's a different approach. So it's not like what can it help with this, but not this and not that. And, I can't say it. As a disclaimer, I'm just sharing what I know. This is not at all any kind of medical advice. This is just me sharing my experience and philosophy. So if you have anything chronic, you've got to figure out what to do. Best to go with your primary health physician or whoever is your main source of health. So with that out of the way, back to what it can and cannot help. I don't think you can't really look at it that way. You just have to say, well, if you're not here at the base and you're in this, whether you have Parkinson's or Alzheimer's or cancer or this or that, the idea is it's like a path, you want to get back here. Doesn't matter if you're here. It is when you get back to health. And again, sometimes there might be other contributing factors, especially when I said Alzheimer's, my experience and my knowledge and my research said that's usually metals in the body, like aluminum and stuff. But, usually it can't hurt. I've never met anybody, I don't talk with a ton of people about acupuncture and acupressure, but I've never met anybody like, oh, that made it worse, that's horrible. But in general, sometimes things do get worse before they get better. I'll say as a kind of a blanket statement, but I think it's great. I'm an advocate for it because, especially the community acupuncture, it's usually very inexpensive. There's not as much these days, but it's a great way to just, some of us have insurance, some of us don't. So it's a great way to kind of have another member of your team. I like the team approach where you have different people kind of helping you out of different backgrounds. Acupuncture is one different background from, say, a nutritionist or a naturopath or or any other kind of healing modality. They have different angles, but they all want the same thing. They want to get you back to health. Okay, so with that in mind, I encourage you to check it out. I'll leave some links in the description. And how about yourself? Please feel free to share. Have you had any experience with acupuncture, acupressure, reflexology, ear acupuncture? What's it been like for you? What are your thoughts? Are you scared? Are you nervous? Have you had good success? Have you stabilized your blood pressure? Have you seen results from your doctor? A lot of times you can prove this works or not by getting treatments and then getting tests. So if you're cholesterol was high and it's lowered, or your blood pressure was off and it's normalized, or whatever else is going on, then you could see that it either worked. And you should feel it. This is definitely a sense thing. You should feel, like I said, about 5 sessions or 10 sessions. You should know firsthand, like, wow, I can sleep better, or I have more energy, or not as cranky, or not as many cravings. Hey, it's also been used, I've read, to help people quit smoking. It can help with addictions. Again, back to the emotional aspect connected to the physical and physiological. So I encourage you to look into it, and all other healing modalities. If you know of any other ones, please leave a comment about that as well. There's so much out there, and I don't think you can really, it's not easy to run out of discussion points for this and similar things. So as always, I wish you the best of health. Please check out my website, nutritionbyeric.com. And I want to show off something I have on the site. I have made a T-shirt, and you can see, you ever see those people with the fist tattoos. Fist tattoos. That's what it says. That's what they're called. Like love, hate, or something like that. Or that's all I can think of right now. But this was similar, inspired by that idea that just says, as you probably can tell, broccoli. So, broccoli fists, available at nutritionbyeric.com and most of the other print-on-demand services like Printify and Redbubble and Spreadshirt as well. And also, even though I don't have the shirt on, I made one specifically for acupuncturists. So I'll put a link down there as well. It's 2 needles. I'll just explain it real fast. 2 needles, and it says Needle Game Strong. So if you're a practitioner, or you want to support a practitioner, or you're a student, you might be interested in that one as well. So that's it for now. Again, wishing you the best of health and happiness and success. And if you haven't already, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, leave a comment, and stay well. And until next time, cheers.